Hey guys, Brook here. I wanted to share a little bit about a recent road trip that I'd made with a friend of mine out to Liverpool and Glastonbury for a 4 day road trip that we did recently. Now there was a lot of things that happened on this trip. It was really, a God thing at the end of the day. But I wanted to just share some of the highlights. So, just a quick backstory on this. My friend has been going through a really hard time, the pressures of work. He recently lost somebody very dear to him, stress, with his family. And he was supposed to have a vacation for a week. Things fell apart and he ended up with free time. He calls me up on a Tuesday, pack your stuff, we're going. And we did. We left on a Tuesday. We had no idea where we were going. We were just driving. But in the midst of that, he and I began to have this amazing conversation, very honest, very real about our struggles, our fears, and I started to deconstruct a lot of the religious traditions and the ministry mindset, where he's got to perform sort of thing, and really started introducing him to the concepts of grace and the union between God and man and these things. I mean, it was really a fantastic conversation. But what was even more incredible is that over the entire 4 days that we were out, God started to speak and confirm everything that we had discussed in that initial conversation. I mean, there were a lot of aspects to it, but just a couple of the highlights. He would talk about, we went into this nightclub in Liverpool, and he saw these two girls come in, like they'd just come from the gym, and he remembers looking at them and just being at awe with how free these two young girls were. Uh, you know, we don't know what they believe. We don't know if they had any kind of theology, but he remembers reflecting upon his own life and like, I'm the Christian, I'm the child of God, and I am miserable. And I'm looking at these two young girls, and they're just completely liberated. And he remembers having that conversation with the Lord, like, I want that. I really just want to be myself and be able to experience life. And it really changed him. It really affected him in a very positive way, I must say. And again, all through this whole trip, like we were discussing the church's idea of the separation between secular and sacred, and how the church, unless it's explicitly about Jesus and they could explicitly hear about the cross and all this other stuff, they generally don't see God in it, and their perception of God is very small. He only exists in the world of Christianity and Christian worship songs. And I was explaining to him that the Eastern view is very different, where God is in union, with mankind, and heaven and earth have become one through the person of Jesus Christ, and there is no longer any kind of separation. In fact, the Psalms talk about the darkness and the light; they look the same to God. He's not threatened by the darkness. And we talked about that, and we went out there, and we got to encounter that. Like one of the nights we were out in Glastonbury, we went out to the 99 Monkeys, which is this kind of diner, restaurant. They were doing a jazz evening, and I remember looking at the singer. I think she was from Malaysia, this Asian lady. Just watching her rehearsal, she was looking up to the heavens and just singing, with just such passion. And I remember thinking, I know she's a Christian. Now, anybody who knows, Glastonbury is like the new age capital of of the UK. Everywhere is just like, these pagan statues and Reiki and crystals and, the whole thing. And in the middle of it, we find, this Christian woman that's singing to the crowd. And I turned to my friend and was like, do you think she's a Christian? And she did her set. She had like all of her students there. They even, they got up and they sang a song by Sting, Fields of Gold. Just beautiful, beautiful music. And in the middle of it, she stops and she gives her testimony about being a Christian. And she sang this great rendition of, I think, How Great Is Our God, or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think that was it. And I remember looking at my friend like, he was just blown away. She is entirely a Christian, and here she is singing supposedly secular songs with such excellence and such passion, and God was all over it. And even for me, I was looking at the whole experience, just blown away with the glory of it. I started to tear up, like, oh my, this is just too good. And one other story out of this entire trip. I mean, there's a lot that I could say, but we were looking for a place to stay while we were out in Glastonbury, and there was some big festival, some farmers festival or something like that. So everywhere was booked. So the first B&B that we go to is like, hey, do you have a space? There's like, no, I'm sorry, we're fully booked. Do you know anywhere we could try? And she recommended something called the Covenstead. And she said it's like the number one place to stay in Glastonbury on TripAdvisor. And it's this pagan themed like house slash museum with like all these memorabilia and whatever. And she's like, okay. You should try there. It's like, okay, cool, but I mean, we didn't even pay it any mind. So we tried the Travel Lodge, we tried the Days Inn, we tried like all of the major stops, a couple other places, and then we passed this house on the main road with the sign vacancy. So my friend parks the car, I run in, and as I open the door, I realized this is the pagan museum house. This is the place. So I go in and I meet the house manager, really friendly guy, and he gave us the best rate as compared to everywhere else that we'd spoken to. Like everybody was over £100, and he gave us the fantastic discount. And he even he kind of checked into it afterwards, like, oh my gosh, you guys should thank me because he didn't realize there was such a shortage of places. He could have charged us double, but he was just such a jolly guy. He was very thankful and stuff like that. And the minute my friend comes into the house, I could just see the expression on his face. Like initially he was freaking out, like this is the Scooby Doo house. Like this is the house of all that kind of stuff. And initially he was really taken, and he like walked out and went next door to see if maybe there might be vacancy next door. But I knew it was totally a God thing. Like God is showing him like the darkness is nothing to be afraid of, right? Even God is in the darkness. So I knew he was gonna get a space next door. And we ended up staying there. We ended up staying in the fairy room of all places. And he said it was the most comfortable sleep that he had ever had. And he had this amazingly prophetic dream about like unhealthy teeth falling out. And anybody knows biblically, teeth represent like wisdom. So unhealthy teeth is like bad wisdom and bad teaching that came out of him. And it really spoke to him. And he got the connection, even the fairy room, the tooth fairy, and we just started to make all these amazing connections. And it was a great time. We had an absolute blast. And even going back home, the music on the radio was ministering to the two of us. Like every song spoke to some aspect of the trip that we had just done. And it just kept getting better and better. The glory just kept growing and growing. And I mean, it was just such a phenomenal experience. I know I will always cherish it. I know it really was life changing for him. And I believe it really showed him that God is so much bigger, so much better. He's been striving in ministry and doing all this stuff for God for years. And now that he's kind of stepped back from that, and he's really learning about who he is and who God is, he's realizing how effortless that expression really is. And I'm excited for him. And as I'm excited for myself, and I hope to do many more trips like that, and watch God just speak through the unconventional, the unusual, the weird, the strange. I just love that kind of thing. So I mean, I don't want this video to go too long. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened out there. I might do a couple more videos based on a couple other things that happened, but it was an amazing trip. And guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks again for watching, guys. God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.